Hey y'all, howdy. Welcome to One for the Books. I'm Sandy Broadwell, and today we're going to talk about my winter TBR, which is all of the books that I want to read in December, January, and February. I've been averaging about 4.5 books per month for the past year, so I'm putting 5 books for each month on my TBR, so I'm going to mention 15 different books today. This could change throughout the course of the coming months, of course. TBRs are always a little bit more hopes and dreams, because I do like to leave a lot of flexibility in my plans, but I like also having things to look forward to. So for December, my reads are a lot of just like trying to wrap up some end of year goals, including books for the Buzzwordathon reading challenge and also just like other goals that I set for myself. One of my goals for the year was to read at least 8 classics, and I need to read one more. So the one that I have on my shelves that I really would like to read in December is Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I read A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens and really loved it maybe 2 years ago. But now that it's December, it feels like a great time to read Charles Dickens again. So I honestly don't know really anything about this book, but I got it at a free little library when I was traveling through Texas like a year or 2 ago, so it's time to finally read it. Then I have 3 books that I need to read for the Buzzwordathon reading challenge still, because this year instead of just 12 books, there were 24 books to read for Buzzwordathon if you didn't want to repeat any books across the categories. The first of those is I Who Have Never Known Men, because I needed a book with never in the title, and I've been hearing a lot of really good things about this classic. It's a story about a group of incarcerated women and a very young girl who is in captivity with them and how they escape and what happens to them afterwards. Then we have The Third Rule of Time Travel by Philip Fracassi, which I recently just won in an Orbit Loot sweepstakes, which I mentioned in my Goodreads reading vlog. So you can see the other 4 books that I won in that little book haul. But this one will fit my monochromatic cover challenge for Buzzwordathon. And this is a story about a couple who invents time travel, and then I think the man dies and the wife of course breaks her own rules about time travel and the consequences of what happens after. Then I needed a book with in the title, and The Girl with All the Gifts is one that I've been wanting to read. I believe the main character, the little girl, is a zombie and she's being experimented on or raised in some sort of laboratory. So I'm interested to read this one. I know this was really popular several years ago. And then my last one for the Buzzwordathon reading challenge that I hope to be able to finish before the end of December is the second book in the Rook and Rose trilogy, which is called The Liar's Knot. And this will fit the prompt that was truth and lies. So having something about truth or lies in the title of the book. I really enjoyed the first book in the series, which I read a couple of months ago, but since then a lot of new releases have come out that I was anticipating and the Goodreads Choice Awards. And so I've put completing or continuing the series on the back burner, but I would really like to read this before the end of the year. And then continuing on that theme, I would also like to finish this series with the third and final book, which is Labyrinth's Heart, assuming I like the second book at least as much as I like the first, which I assume that I will. The first book gave me Mask of Zorro vibes, but in a more epic fantasy setting, and also with Regency era, sort of maybe Bridgerton meets Mask of Zorro meets epic fantasy. So if that sounds good, I highly recommend picking up these books. Sticking with the continuing series theme, I recently read A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martine, which is the first half of a duology about an ambassador to a foreign planet, and the empire is crumbling and the politics are very messy. The second book in that series, or in that duology, is called A Desolation Called Peace, and I really love the first book, so I'm very much looking forward to getting to the second book. Also continuing along with series, I would like to get to the 4th book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, which is called The Gate of the Feral Gods. I've been loving Dungeon Crawler Carl this year, and I definitely anticipate finishing or at least catching up to current on Dungeon Crawler Carl in 2026. And the other series that I want to finally continue in is Red Rising. I read Era 1 maybe 2 years ago now, and I think now is the time. I'd really like to get to Era 2, so I'd really like to read Iron Gold, which is book 4, the first book of the second era of Red Rising, hopefully in the next couple of months. Then my family has a little book club that we've been doing in the last half of this year. We're only reading a book together every other month, and so in January I'll be picking up How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying, which is my brother's girlfriend's pick. So I'm excited to try that one out. I heard good things about it last year, and it seems like it's going to be a fun time. Then a book that I hauled while I was in New Orleans last year that is on my priority sci-fi TBR is Hyperion by Dan Simmons. This is a compendium of the first 2 books combined. So I don't know that I will get to both of the books in the first couple of months of the year, but I definitely intend to at least read the first book, Hyperion by Dan Simmons. This is a sci-fi classic that is based off of the Canterbury Tales, and that's kind of all I know about it, but I know that everyone that reads it tends to love it. Other sci-fi priority for me right now is Ancillary Justice by Ann Leckie. I have heard really good things about this series, and I know that she is continuing to put out new books in this world, so I would like to read more women sci-fi authors, and I think this would be a great place to start. This, I believe, is about a person who used to be like the AI on a starship, but now like inhabits a human body or like a robotic body. I'm not really sure. I'm intrigued to find out even what the full premise of this is, but it sounds very interesting. Then a couple of other new releases that I'm interested in getting to: Brigands and Bread Knives by Travis Baldree. I loved Legends and Lattes. I felt kind of mid about Bookshops and Bone Dust, so I think Brigands and Bread Knives for me is going to determine whether or not I continue to read in this series if Travis Baldree puts out any more, but I have high hopes for it, and the cover is just so adorable. Then I have a 2026 anticipated release that's going to come out in February, which is by Heather Fawcett, the author of the Emily Wilde series, which I really, really loved. And her next book is not an Emily Wilde book, but it is called Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter. Yeah, it's a fantasy book somehow involving cats. I'm sold. And then similar to 2025 and 2026, I am going to have a goal to continue to read classics. Next year, I would like to read at least 6 classics. So the first classic I'm planning to tackle in 2026 is going to be Wuthering Heights, because I've heard there is a movie adaptation coming out pretty soon with Margot Robbie, the actress that played Barbie, and I think I would be interested to do like a first time reading comparing to the new movie adaptation video. So I think that could be really fun. So that's it. Those are the 15 books that I hope to get to in December, January, and February. And I would love to know in the comments below what books you are most looking forward to reading in the next couple of months. And also, of the books that I mentioned, are there any that you really enjoyed or really hated? I would love to hear your opinions about them in the comments down below. Thanks so much for tuning in and hanging out. As always, please be kind, read books, and hit the subscribe button below for more bookish content to come. I'll see you again soon.